pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 318, a bill relating to release of balloons prohibition.
Oh, we're okay. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Kiggans.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate pass Senate Bill 318, and I'd like to speak to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, Senate Bill 318 reduces the number of balloons that can be intentionally released in a 1-hour period from the current law of 49 to 1 intentional release. This bill carries a light fine of $5 per balloon above this release limit paid to the Lifetime Hunting and Fishing Endowment Fund. Caring for our environment should not be a partisan issue. Balloon launches are bad for the environment, and I think we can all agree it can be classified as aerial litter. We don't litter on the ground, so why should we litter in the air? I'd like to specifically point out the effect on the wildlife of Virginia when balloons lose their lift and fall to the ground and into our waterways. The bright colors of balloons can be misinterpreted as food by many marine mammals and can be ingested by endangered sea turtles and many types of fish. More than 30 animal species are known to be impacted by balloons, and those are just the ones we can identify. The Ocean Conservancy's annual International Coastal Cleanup reports that from 2008 to 2016, almost 300,000 balloons were found along U.S. beaches. If we do the math, that's 31,000 balloons per year littering our coasts and waterways. Another hazard of balloon releases is power loss. Some power companies estimate 16 to 20% of annual outages are related to metallic or foil balloons that conduct electricity and become entangled in power lines. Additionally, helium depletion is also a matter of concern. There's a finite amount of this non-renewable element, and its use should be conserved for more important applications, such as for use in sea and space exploration. And I would be remiss as a naval aviator if I did not mention the risk of balloons to rotor blades, tail rotors, and jet engine intakes. With our large military presence in Virginia, we must protect our skies for the sake of our country's safety. However, I appreciate the ceremonial significance of balloon releases, and therefore I'm not asking to outlaw completely the intentional release of balloons, but simply to reduce the number to a symbolic 1, which can be then released as an appropriate gesture at weddings, funerals, graduations, and the like. Mr. President, my bill is especially important to my constituents from the 7th District as it borders the Chesapeake Bay, where we play in the beautiful water of our oceans. We enjoy much wildlife indigenous to the Hampton Roads area, and we benefit from local tourism that our beautiful beaches bring. In summary, I believe that Virginia's current law regarding balloon releases is outdated and needs to be changed to prevent further environmental impact and to provide a penalty for balloon littering violations. Virginia was one of the first states to introduce legislation prohibiting mass balloon releases in 1991, and we can once again be a leader on this important issue, and I thank you for your consideration of this reasonable bill whose time has come.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D-Staff, rise?
Mr. President, will the gentlelady rise for a question?
Will the senator yield?
Yes, I will.
Senator yield, you have the floor.
Mr. President, I'd like to know what materials of a balloon make it non-biodegradable and non-photodegradable within 5 minutes, if the gentlelady can tell me which material that would make a balloon biodegradable or photodegradable within 5 minutes of contact of the air or water.
Almost all of the materials that the balloons are made of will not be biodegradable. So there are such rare exceptions to this that it's not even worth mentioning.
Further question?
I'm sorry.
If the gentlelady will please yield for a follow-up question.
Will Senator yield for another
Yes, I will.
Senator yields, you have the floor.
So I was just wondering, the code is rather voluminous, and with that voluminous code, why wouldn't we list, since there's only 1 or 2 of these materials, why wouldn't we list that in code and save time and space from what we've shown here in this extremely long 24-line bill?
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am not a fan of over-regulating, so I did not include that in my bill.
Mr. President.
Further question?
If the gentlelady will rise for another question,
Will
will
Senator yield?
Yes, I will.
Senator yield, you have the floor.
So since Geico Gecko is home to Virginia Beach, What about the balloons released by the Geico Gecko? Would he have to pay for $5 for every balloon released, more than one?
Senator has the floor.
If he was seen doing that, then I would say yes.
Mr. President.
Further question?
Would the gentle lady yield for one more question?
Will Senator yield?
Only one more.
Senator yields for one more. You have the floor.
So what about the Aflac duck? Would the Aflac duck be charged for every balloon released beyond one?
Senator has the floor.
He's an advocate, actually, of this bill because it affects his friends and family.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're quacking us up. For what purpose does the senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to see if the gentlewoman from Virginia Beach would rise for a series of questions about this incredible intrusion of the government.
Yes, I will.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senior senator from Fairfax had inspired me a number of years ago with his blimp that was about 10 feet in length, and I myself had a 10-foot blimp as well. Are you telling me that if a gust of wind should rise and cause our blimps to escape, that we would be criminals?
Senator has the floor.
No, that's not the intent of this bill at all.
Further question?
Yes, I just recently was reminded about something called a gender reveal, which has nothing to do with the gender bills from yesterday. It's when a child or a baby, a fetus, is known to be, when the parents determine it's going to be a male or female baby, they have a party and they, in some cases, release a bunch of pink or blue balloons. Are you telling me that you're against baby showers?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, no, I am not against baby showers. And as I previously stated, I believe that the symbolic one is enough of a gesture to identify the gender of the child.
Further question?
I would just remind the gentlelady that in the case of Senator Peake with 4 children, you would be prohibiting from celebrating the gender of each child. So with that, I'll just ask the members to oppose the bill.
For what purpose does the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw, rise?
This should be great.
Would the junior senator from Virginia Beach yield for
Senator yield for a question?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator yield to the floor.
Listening to the senior senator from Virginia Beach and questions he asked, I was thinking next year, if this bill passes, would you be willing to support 1 balloon a month?
Mr. President, we could talk off the record later. My goal and my objective is not to outlaw balloons, but we could talk about that later.
Well, another question I would ask, would she support background checks for people who buy balloons?
Senator has the floor.
No, I would oppose background checks.
Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Hanover, Senator McDougall, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the gentlelady yield for a question?
Will the senator yield? Senator yields. You have the floor.
Mr. President, after listening to the gentleman from Fairfax, I became very concerned about the government intrusion on balloons, and I decided to read the bill a little closer. And I'd ask the lady, what is the reason that the government is the only people that can release balloons with the lines that saying they are not restricted from a plethora being placed into the atmosphere, but poor citizens of the Commonwealth can only release one?
Which
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, which line are you referencing?
Which lines, Senator, referencing?
Mr. President, I'd point the gentlelady to lines 21 through 22, which has the exemptions for balloons released by agencies of the Commonwealth or agencies of the United States or on their behalf, that they are not limited to 1 balloon an hour or a month.
Mr.
Or
President.
registry.
So that applies to the military, the government. For, again, the sake of national security, we may need to do some sort of unmanned aerial reconnaissance or even weather balloons. So there are some definite reasons where the government may be involved.
Further question?
Mr. President, I understand the gentlelady's answer, but I would ask the gentlelady why the language does not so indicate that it says any agency of the Commonwealth. And I know that there are a multitude of the agencies of the Commonwealth that have nothing to do with national security or reconnaissance or protection, and why that individual citizens, particularly ones like my sweet daughter Reagan, who loves to go in to her local Food Lion and find a helium balloon, why she could only be limited to one per hour, because she certainly knows that I will not be stopping twice for her to get a balloon.
Senator has the floor.
President. And I'm sure there's a sign where she gets that balloon that probably says limited to one per child. Probably that's what it says probably in most grocery stores, or if you get one free cookie, one free balloon. So maybe we should revisit that. And as far as this line reference 21 through 24, so it's on behalf of any agency. So the government can act as a representative for that agency, which I don't think is problematic.
Mr. President, I would ask the gentlelady, does her interpretation of that bill, meaning that the members of this body, since we act on behalf of the Commonwealth, can release as many balloons as we would like, so it would be exempt from the one balloon an hour restriction that the rest of the citizens are required?
Mr. President, that's really reading into this bill and really reading in between the lines. I'm going to say no to that.
Further question?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Russell, Senator Chapin, rise?
I would ask if the gentlelady would rise for a question.
Will Senator yield?
Yes, I will.
Senator yield, you have the floor.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the gentlelady from Virginia Beach if her bill seeks to prevent children from becoming flighty and lightweights before they become adults.
Senator has the floor.
Yes, that is absolutely. Oh, that's funny, Mr. President. So I want to remind everyone of the legend of Larry Walters, who took these 45 balloons and tied them to his lawn chair and was able to actually go up to 16,000 feet in the air and travel into L.A. airspace, and caused quite a commotion in the year 1982. So as far as children becoming flighty and lightweight adults, so yes, this is concerning because these people may do the same type of thing, tying those 49 or 50 plus balloons to lawn chairs, thus launching them into the air and having them become public safety issues.
Further question?
Yes, Mr. President. Would the gentlelady yield for a second
Senator
question?
yield for another question?
I will.
Senator yield, you have the floor.
No, if the gentlelady, Mr. President, is simply trying to prevent the balloon that goes around from coming around.
Senator has the floor.
Well, that may be possible because one balloon could actually travel all the way around the Earth. There have been balloons that have traveled from Australia to Antarctica, and depending on where it gets in the jet stream and then the pressure, and we can talk about the Archimedes effect and how high the balloons actually rise with the pressure differentials. So yes, it may what goes around comes around. So we want to prevent those things.
I thank the gentlelady.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
I just wanted to say on behalf of the bicameral, bipartisan Jennifer caucus, we support this bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline, rise?
Mr. President, I'd like to know if my seatmate will yield for a question.
Will Senator yield?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
I got very worried as I was listening to the description about who this bill was aimed to help, and I think I saw the senator from Fairfax City peek up too when I heard it sounded like this was at the request of the power companies. I want to know who wrote this bill.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this was not at the request of the power companies, but I advocate for all my constituents, including those who may be employed by the power companies.
Well, very good. I've got
Further
Mr.
question?
President, will she yield for one more question?
Will the senator yield?
Just one more.
Senator yield. You have the floor.
Mr. President, the ratepayers are very dear to my heart, but there's someone even closer, and that's my little daughter who's only 6 years old, and she's got such small hands, and she helps me campaign, and what we do is we give out these balloons that say Suderline. It's not a very common name, so we try to make it more familiar, and it says Suderline for Senate, and her hands are just so small that occasionally 2 to 3 balloons, which cost me campaign money and makes me unhappy float away. And I want to know if the Roanoke County Commonwealth Attorney is going to be coming after her.
Mr. President, that should not be a concern, because if you read the bill, you would see that it is intentional balloon releases that it applies to, not unintentional balloons, such as for children that have very small hands who are campaigning for their fathers.
I appreciate her concern. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards, rise?
Mr. President, will the junior senator from Virginia Beach yield for a question?
Will the senator yield?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
I'd like to know what effect will your one balloon per hour have on children's birthday parties? They have lots of helium balloons.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, negligible effect, because there's many alternatives to releasing balloons. There are banners and candles and confetti and types of things that are maybe we can do rather than littering into the air into unknown space.
Further question? Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson, rise?
Gentlelady, yield for a question.
Will the senator yield?
President.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Whether or not concealed carry permit holders have an exception from this law.
Senator has the floor.
President.
Further question? For what purpose does the senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley, rise?
God bless us.
Will the gentlelady yield for a question?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator yield. You have the floor.
Why do you hate balloons? They're so much fun. What is it about
Mr.
balloons that you hate so much?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, just to clarify, I do not hate balloons. I am not in the Anti-Clown Alliance or any of those things. So, big fan of birthday parties, all those. I just think there's some alternative things we need to be considering.
Further question?
No, I think I've run out of helium. I'm good.
Thank the senator. Oh, sorry. That's very good. For what purpose does the senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph, rise?
Mr. President, one last serious question.
Senator has the floor.
Do we have to rename the song from 99 Luftballons to one Luftballon? It doesn't make sense.
Senator has the floor.
No, I don't think that will be necessary. We're not here to change the music industry, just simply to make the environment a cleaner place.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove, rise?
I would ask that the gentlelady would yield for a question.
Will the senator yield?
Why not?
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would draw the lady's attention to line 16, where it says, "2 little I, inflated with a substance that is lighter than air." Give me, or can you tell me where air is defined in the code?
Senator has the floor.
I don't currently define air. I'm under the assumption that most people know what that is, so I didn't feel the need to define it. However, if the senator from Chesapeake would like to do an amendment to add that definition, we could consider that.
I can do that.
Further question?
Mr. President, no, I would just ask that Senator McDougal remind the gentlelady what his sweet daughter said about the last senator that carried this bill.
For a person senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal, rise.
Mr. President, I'm still waiting to see if the clerk is going to come take my seatmate away. But, but Mr. President, Reagan, when she was much younger, said, "Don't take my balloons."
And Mr. President, this bill again does not take balloons from children. It simply reduces. There has been talk in other parts of this building of other bills that may be indeed doing that of making balloons illegal. But my bill is very sympathetic and does not take away balloons. Simply limits the number.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill, rise?
Move the printing question.
Question is, shall the pending question be ordered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 20.
The pending question is not ordered. Debate can continue. Does anybody else wish to be recognized on Senate Bill 318? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 318 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk, close the roll.
Balloons 25, noes 15.
Ayes 25, noes 15. Senate Bill 318 passes. And briefly, just to explain to our friends in the gallery, what just happened is Senator Kiggans just passed her first bill, and so it's the tradition of the Senate for everyone to applaud after that occurs. So we congratulate the senator on passing her first bill.